Hello, everybody. This is Ross from Church Windows here, and today we're going to be talking about some of like the most common and standard reports that are built into the program in Church Windows. Um, I have Kellyanne answering questions for me today. I do ask that you keep it on the topic at hand, um, just since there's so many of you here at the moment. So let's get started. The first one we're going to do is in membership. This particular webinar topic is covered. I'm basically taking it straight out of our workbooks. It's out of workbook membership 202, and it starts on page 29. If you don't have those, you can always get those on our website. And if you have purchased them before, that's where you can look at them. So once you open up membership, you want to click on reports, and most of the time you're going to just be clicking on reports, directory export, or labels or email at the top. But if you're specifically wanting birth date or anniversary or groups, classes, skills, interests, we have a couple of pre-formatted and pre-built in reports for you. So we're going to go into birth date, and then you can see you have the different selections, reports, labels, and email like you do at the top. For this particular webinar, I'm just going to show you reports directory export for everything, since we just don't have that much time. So I'll click on reports directory export, and when that pops up, you can see here at the top it has already automatically selected birth date. When you run the birth date report, you can have other search criteria, active members or people of a certain age, etc. But you have to include birth date as part of your search criteria. When you have to have birthday selected, you have your different options listed below. It defaults to is in month, and then it does whatever the current month is. So say March through March. If you want to select a different month, you can just click on the little drop down, and it gives you the different ranges. So April through July we could do, for example. You could also, if you want it between specific dates, you can select the between option, and you can type in, say, 0101 to 2000 to today's date. So you could put in 0320 if you want everybody born in the year 2000s. For example, or you can select the drop-down arrows, and that will bring up the calendar, where you can then click the arrow keys right here, left and right, to go to different years, and then select the date you want to look at. If you want everybody who has a birth date listed on their record, it doesn't matter what the date is, doesn't matter how complete of a date you have, you can select is blank and then the not checkbox. So that's going to tell the system to include everybody whose birth date has something in it. Now, for the best results, you're going to want to put in day, month, and year, if you have them. If you don't, say, for example, have the year for somebody, you can put in, just 4 question marks on their record. So, say 0101 question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. That way, when you run the reports, if you ask it for people who are born in the month of January, that person will still show up. But if you're asking for specific years, it will not print them on the report because the system doesn't know what year they were born. And the same thing with month. If you don't have a month for a particular person, you can put in question marks. Or you don't have days, you can put in question marks, and the system will print them if the criteria matches. But if you ask for a specific month, and you don't have it in, it won't show up. If you want to print just a list of everybody who you don't have a birth date for, you can. If you just uncheck the not box and click and just have is blank checked, the only people that show up will be people who don't have a birthday on your report. So I'm just going to leave the not checked and click the plus selection button. And then at the bottom here, after I added it, we get the search criteria, and it just says birth date has a date. So it's showing me anybody in the database who has a birth date listed. And when you're running the birth date, you have to pay attention to this section on the right, this include section. There are options to include membership groups, donations, individuals, and donations groups. Those last three, if you have that checked, they will show up on the report no matter what for this particular report, because they are not limited by membership field selections, because they're people that don't, they're things that don't exist as individual people in membership. So the system is designed to include them if you have them checked, regardless of what your membership criteria is. They only look at donations criteria. Do that. Similar to that, typically in this top right section, this giver number section, you'll just want to leave all that checked as is. Typically, you just care about when they were born. You don't care about if they have a number, a giver number or not. Same with the giving pledging tab. You typically want to leave all that checked, and the accounts tab, leave all that checked. Unless you're specifically wanting the birth date for people who gave last year. Now on to the sort tab. The sort tab defaults to sorting by birth date and then name. You can change it by clicking on the drop down and sorting it by something else. Within the birth date sort, there are 3 different options you have. You can see that here at the bottom. You have you can sort by year, month, day, which is chronological order, so essentially oldest to youngest or youngest to oldest. So whoever was born first will show up. Or you can sort by month, day, year, which essentially means January 1st will be the first day to show up, and then whoever's birth date is earliest. So if you have 2 people born on January 1st, one in the year 2000, one in the year 2001, the one in the year 2000 will show up first if you're sorting it by ascending. If you do month, day only, the year does not affect the sort at all. It'll sort by month, day, and then go on to sorting by name or whatever you have your second field be. So then I'll click next after we have our search criteria and everything. So the second screen is you see a list of everybody who fit your search criteria. The default report layout that's chosen when you run the birthday report, anniversary report, groups, classes, skills interest reports is basic, in the basic columnar report. If I click print down here, you will see that name, first, last, and birth date are on the report. You can edit the layout to include more things if you want. If we have time at the end, I can show you how to do that. If you look at the very first person in the list, this Jen Arnold, that is a person who shows up on the list. Let me zoom in here. You can see she doesn't have a year put in on her birth date, but she still had other dates filled in. So because we told the system to include everybody who has something filled in into the birth date field, she showed up. And the same with Jack Oliver right below there. If you don't want the year to be included on the birth date report, if you just want the month and day on it, you can do that. Let me close out of this print preview. Up here in the top right corner of the report, you have this checkbox that says include year on birth date. If you uncheck that, and click print, you'll see that the year no longer shows up on the birth date list. Okay, so that is the birth date report. When we close out of that, the second report I'm going to show you is the anniversary list, and it is essentially the same as the birth date report in terms of how you make your selections and things like that, except instead of showing people's birth dates, it shows the marriage date. So let me click on Reports, Anniversary, Reports Directory, Export. So you can see it's got the same setup. Marriage date is selected. You have your different date field options below. The difference with this is, since it's an anniversary report, it requires two people's records to be set up correctly. In order for a couple to show up on the anniversary report, they have to have a couple of things listed. Let me close this and open up somebody's record real quick. So, in order for a couple to show up, their directory report order has to be filled out for both people. One has to be listed as a primary with the directory report, so with the directory report order 1, and the other person, the other person in the couple has to have a directory report order of either 2 or 4. That's the only way the system knows how to, combine the two of them into one line in the anniversary report. If that's not filled out, they won't show up. If one of the two people passes away or moves or becomes inactive or becomes terminated in some way, the other person will not show up on the anniversary report either. So the only people that will show up on the anniversary report are people that have director report order 1 and a director report order of 2 or 4 showed up on their record. The marriage date field has to be filled out on at least the primary person. It doesn't have to be filled out on the secondary person, but it doesn't hurt anything. I generally recommend just keep things consistent that you put it on the secondary person as well. So once you have that set up, you can then run your report. The date fields have the same restrictions as the anniversary report has the same kind of date restrictions as the birthday report. If you don't know the year or the month or the day, you can put in question marks, and then and then when you run the report, it will still show up with question marks on it. So let's go back into the anniversary report. Export. So I'm going to do, so you had the same options up here. I'm going to do the same I did before with the birth date. I'm going to do is blank, and then click the not checkbox, and then plus selection. So the only people that show up are people that have marriage date filled out, direct report orders filled out, and neither person is terminated. So the giving pledging tab, the accounts tab are basically the same basic instructions as the birthday report. Leave as is unless you're specifically looking for people who gave a certain amount or gave in a certain time frame. Typically, you just leave those as is. You go to the sort tab. The marriage date field has the same options as the birth date field. You can sort by year, month, day, year, or month, day only. And then, so I'm going to click next. And then basic is, as before, is selected by default with basic columnar report. If you click print on this, brings up, now with the anniversary list, it's a slightly, it will show the names of the two people in the household, their marriage date, and then how many years that they've been married, if it can calculate it. If you have question marks in the, let me zoom in here. If you have question marks in the marriage date, like for example, this first line, it can't calculate the years married. Or like with this fourth line, it can't calculate the years married. But it will do what it can. And again, if you want to edit the report layout, you can do so. Okay, so let me close out of this, and looks like still got a few minutes. Run a little behind. So let's try and get through these last couple. The last two reports, the group's classes and skills interests, are similar in the same ways that birthday and anniversary are similar. If I click on groups, classes, reports, and export, it will bring up a pop-up that has all the different groups and classes you can choose from. You can click select all to select if you want to get a list of everybody in all the classes. Clear all, or you can click not, and then select a couple, and then you'll get the list of people who are not in those particular groups. By default, it will look at only people who are currently enrolled in those classes. You can include past and future people by checking those in the bottom here. The way the system determines if someone's currently enrolled in it or not is when you add somebody to a group or class, there's a start date and end date field as well. If that start date and end date is not filled out, the system just assumes that they are in that group in perpetuity until it's removed. If there's no end date, same thing. Anytime after the start date, it assumes that they are in that group. If there's no start date, but then there's an end date, it assumes that they are in that group until that end date happens. So let me just select everybody. So I'm going to click the select all button, and then click the OK. Actually, uncheck the not and then click OK. So it says group classes is one of the following, and it's got a list of all the groups. And you can't see the whole thing because it's a large list of groups, obviously. Like before, the giving pledging, the accounts tab, the giver number section are all typically you want to leave as is, unless you're specifically looking for people who gave or did not give. And just like before, you can add other criteria to the report. You don't have to, but if you're running the groups classes list, you have to at least include a selection for groups classes, and then you can add other options like active members or males only or 18 and above, that sort of thing. If we go to the sort tab, it will sort by default by sorting by name. And then if we click next, you'll see a list of everybody in the list below who are currently involved in a group in the database. Basic and basic column report are selected. And let me show you a tab that comes into importance on the groups, classes, and skills interest reports. It's the grouping page break options report. By default, the groups, classes, and skills interest reports are grouped together by group or skill and interest. So if we, so that's why include group heading is checked by default, because it will tell you what each selection of people are in that group is. And then if you want to page break on each group so they don't all run together, you can check that as well. I'm going to check that and click print and show you how that looks. Let me then zoom in again. So you can see the default layout includes the name, address block, home phone, and then you can see the groups, classes, start date. And then if we go to the second page, because it's so many different columns, the end date, the role, and then the comments are all options on the report, or all columns on the report. And you can see the group heading is right here. So you'll see whatever the group name is, and then you have everybody listed in that below. Let me go down to the next one. And then you have the 3rd and 4th grade Sunday school class is printing. The sort tab sorts people, sorts it within each individual group when you run the groups classes. The groups classes are going to print out in alphabetical order by name of group. So that's why first and 2nd grade Sunday school is the first one printed. And then you can see within the actual names itself, they are printed alphabetically. Close out that. And close out a groups classes list, and then on to the last report. So the last one is the skills interest report. Click on that in reports directory, export, and it is much the same as the groups classes list. You have, when you open it up, you have all the different selections you can make for the different skills you have entered into the database. So and these are all ones that you yourself will have entered in. I'm going to click select all plus selection. So I'm just told it to include everybody on the report who currently has a skill or interest on their record. Same as all the other ones before. The giving pledging tab, the accounts tab, leave as is. Sort by default is name, but if you want to sort it by age or anything else, you can. And then when I click next, basic and basic column report are selected. The grouping and page break options So include skill heading is checked, so it's going to tell me what each group of people and what skill they have. I'm going to not have page break on skill checked, so you can see what that'll look on the report. I'm going to click print. Zoom in. Okay. So as you can see, it's sorting by skill name. Whatever one is first alphabetically shows up first. And then without the page break, it goes straight from carpentry to computers. Then so on and so forth. There's also these skills, interest level, and comments columns that also show up just like in the group's classes list. But that is essentially how you run the reports. If you want to, let me close out of this. It looks like we have enough time. If you want to edit the report to show some different information instead of, like, say you don't need the comments or the interest level, that sort of thing. On this second screen here, you can create a new layout that you select, and you only have to create this one time for each separate report. So you don't have to click these buttons every time you want to run a skills interest report or birthday report, that sort of thing. You want to click the new button here. So if I do that, we can give a report name. Unless you want to do it, landscape, or if you have a legal size paper, typically you leave all the stuff at the top there as is. I'm just going to name it skills interest and click OK. And then after you click OK, it is going to bring up the column selector field, and this is where you can edit. You can remove columns from the report or add more and change the width of all of them. If you want to remove one, like for example skills interest, you just click on it here, and then you can either double click on it to remove it and move it to the left, or you can click on the little arrow pointing to the left button just to the left, and when you do that, it will remove it as well. And then if I click OK and then print, the report now no longer has that second screen, that second page that has all the different skills interest and comments on it. Close out of that real quick. You can see it selected here in the left under skills and interests. If you have and if you ever screw up a layout and you don't need it anymore, or it's just kind of or it's old and you don't need it, if you want to delete it, you can just click this minus sign button and click yes. This minus sign button is the little red minus button right here, and that will give you the option to delete that particular layout. Got a whole lot of ones built into here. But basic columnar report is built in and it cannot be deleted, and you can always go back to it and if you need to, and you can always click a new one, the new button, to create a new layout. If you guys came in late, or if you want to watch this again, this webinar was recorded and it will be put up on our website here within the next couple of days. So you'll be able to watch it again. It'll just be called Standard Reports when it's put up on the website. So you can do a search for that on the website, or you can go to our YouTube page, and all our webinars are put on there as well. And that's just youtube.com/churchwindows. You can always give us a call or email us as well if you have questions. And we are open 9 to 6 Eastern Time, Monday through Thursday, and then 9 to 5 on Fridays. All right. I am not seeing any more questions coming in, so I'm going to close our session here. You guys have a good day and a great rest of the week. Thanks. Bye.